Ladies and gentlemen, the fact is that nobody in the media has the guts to name the real culprits for what happened in Bengaluru. Nobody in the media except Republic. They are trying to fool you, ladies and gentlemen, the people in the media. None of them will name a company called United Sports Limited, a subsidiary of Diageo. I'm taking names. Diageo, a foreign company, a British company. Britain, ladies and gentlemen, which owns United Sports Limited, which in turn owns RCB. Of course, there are different corporate structures, and these corporate structures are aimed at ensuring deniability. So nobody names Diageo, nobody names United Sports Limited. Some people name RCB, and nobody names Virat Kohli. Nobody names Virat Kohli. But the fact is, Virat Kohli is an employee, effectively, of Diageo. And he can't deny that. And he was celebrating. He was celebrating inside. He was having fun, despite knowing that people had died. And then you want to put out a statement saying, I feel gutted. Well, you can throw your templated statement into the dustbin, Virat, because you knew and you celebrated. Can you deny you knew, Virat? He will not deny. He'll just put out a templated statement and then retweet or repost the statement of his employer's RCB. And he thinks we are not going to notice. These are questions that are relevant. I'm not asking whether Virat Kohli will eventually settle or plans to settle in the United Kingdom, as has been reported. That's none of my business. Maybe he does want to be in the United Kingdom. That's none of my business. But what is my business is asking him why he doesn't have the guts, why Virat Kohli does not have the guts to ask his owners, RCB, to own up. Or is that part of Virat Kohli's contract? A nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Both Virat Kohli undoubtedly knew, and his owners, RCB, knew that people had died and they continued to celebrate. But more than that, as far as RCB is concerned, ladies and gentlemen, I ask another fundamental question, the question you should ask tonight. If, imagine an Indian business house owned a football team, which having won a match or a game or a tournament, decided randomly on their own to carry out, to call millions of people into a stadium, regardless of the arrangement, and suppose an Indian-owned company had been responsible for a tragedy in which 13 Englishmen and Englishwomen would have died in the United Kingdom, then my question is, what would have happened to the legal liability of that Indian company? You can only imagine. Here the problem is these Congress politicians in Karnataka don't have the guts to call out the British company, and the British company does not have the ethics to issue a statement. And the media wants to hide all of this and run templated PR replies of this RCB. That's what I've always said about the IPL. IPL is not cricket. IPL is a combination aimed at distracting you, a mix of entertainment, glamour, money, and power. And all politicians from all political parties have a finger in the pie. I had proven it. Ladies and gentlemen, you remember Kochi IPL. You may or may not remember the resignation of Shashi Tharoor. But go back and find out what the Kochi IPL scam was. Go back and see the questions we had asked Lalit Modi and all those people at that time, and ask yourself, is it true or not, that everybody wants a finger in that glamour and money pie called the IPL. But nobody thinks of the fan. They want to make their money. But nobody thinks of the fan when the fan dies. Ladies and gentlemen, Virat Kohli celebrating. Along with DK Shivakumar, the celebrations with Virat Kohli, DK Shivakumar go on. I'm told DK Shivakumar is pretending to cry today. What a lie, what a hypocrisy. Ladies and gentlemen, what hypocrisy is this? The father of one of the victims says, who lost his son, says, please don't cut his body into pieces. Don't do an autopsy, don't do a postmortem, please give me his body. Virat Kohli, you celebrated when that happened. You knew that people had died. You knew these were young people. Now when people take you as their advertising icon, they say Virat Kohli and these cricketers, they target the 20 to 30 age group, which is supposed to be very important for advertisers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, most of the people who died, 14-year-old student lived with her family in Bengaluru. 19-year-old student, Virat Kohli, listen to this, while you celebrated. 26-year-old who got married last year, Virat, worked in a private firm. 19-year-old engineering student from Udupi in Karnataka lived in Bengaluru. 20-year-old BBM student from Tumakuru district. The exact consumer segment that people pay Virat Kohli for is the segment that died. And still people do not understand. These celebrities, these business groups, these politicians don't care about the common people. They are expendable. Templated statement from Virat Kohli, from RCB, each tweeting and retweeting each other. And the advertisers will make tons of money. Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest hypocrisy in this case is of RCB. But the media won't tell you that. I wonder what deal they've got there.